I say I never know how to start these things, but we're going into multiple episodes now, so I think I have a pretty good idea, but we're just gonna roll with it anyway.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was as good as intro as ever, but actually that wasn't even the intro yet, because we have to introduce our guest today, Victor Falcon, man. Thanks for coming.
No, thank you. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you for reaching out to me, and I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to get to know you more and talk about what we're going to talk about today. So thank you so much, seriously.
Well, Tampa Auto Gallery, and I think everybody has seen you around the Tampa Bay area in some pretty incredible vehicles, to say the least. I think I ran into you, I want to say in like Hyde Park or something like that.
I was in the Rolls.
You were?
Yep.
Yeah, you were in the Rolls. And I was like, it's amazing how cars have become such a networking tool. And I think it almost gets a little bit of a bad rap on social media because a lot of people kind of make it as like a flex thing and stuff like that. But it's really like part of a culture and almost like networking. You're almost in this, country club, I guess you could say, of this exotic car ownership. And that's what you do, is you sell these dreams. You sell these cars.
Totally. I mean, I think, you have your flexers that have cars and stuff, and, you have other people like us that are very just passionate and true car enthusiasts. And I think because of cars, it's really helped me curate a lot of very good relationships. I mean, I was in Hyde Park just grabbing lunch, and you walked over to me, So I think it's a cool thing to make connections and meet good people.
I think the coolest thing too is the dialogue that comes along with it, because especially and I've been very blessed with the the Lambos and stuff like that. And then obviously it's like to be able to have these conversations of how did you do this, and how did you get there, and what would you suggest for me, which we're going to go over today. So I got you here, and so let's take it back though. How did you get started in the car business?
So I've been in the business now, which is just crazy, but feels good, but I also feel like I'm getting old now. I've been doing this now for over a decade, so 11 years. So I started the business when I was 20 years old. Started basically buying cars on Craigslist, $500–600 cars, and
you didn't date yourself when you've been doing this for a decade. You just dated yourself when you said you were buying cars from Craigslist. So for those of you that don't know, I'm just kidding. I'm totally bad lawyer joke. So yeah, man, the slinging cars from Craigslist. I love that.
Yeah. So before I had a dealership, before anything, I started just buying cars on Craigslist and doing flips, and then one day I go to my first auction and bought a car, and it was a total fail. I didn't make it out the auction. Over time, I just kind of started finding my niche, and my niche at that time was like European cars. So I was buying a lot of BMWs, Audi S4s, Mercedes, AMGs. I started kind of creating that niche, and then over time, I always wanted to do exotics, never really found how I could do it, and little by little, we were able to achieve that level and kind of get into the entry-level stuff, and got into the crazier things, so to say.
So tell me about that a little bit more. So when you were first buying cars, were you buying cars to fix cars, or was it cars that you knew that were priced the right way that you could flip to somewhere else, or how did that, or was it kind of a combination of things?
Well, when I started, I had no idea what I was doing, so I think I was going into this thinking I could.
Did you have a passion for cars before that, or just kind of like, hey, this is something cool, I can definitely make money and learn about this?
So it's very weird. So I've always had some kind of passion. When I was in middle school and high school, I would collect shoes, and I ended up selling my whole shoe collection. And
I think a lot of people can identify with that.
Yep, so. Jordans, SBs,
yep. Of course,
all of that. Sold my whole shoe collection, bought my first car before I even had a driver's license, and then not sure if you remember this website. It's called Tampa Racing. So I was buying Hondas and stuff.
I think so, yeah.
It was a forums page. So I would just trade cars, and I always traded up for nicer cars. And my dad would sometimes look at me like, dude, how did you do this? And still no license, so I can only drive the car around the neighborhood and stuff. But always traded up and never really thought anything of it. And down the road, after I left my marketing job that I was working at, I decided to get back into kind of the car business and kind of just buy cars on Craigslist because I didn't want to have a dealer's license, location. I couldn't afford to do any of that stuff. So I guess I just figured out a way to get my feet wet.
And I love that you mentioned buying sneakers and reselling sneakers. I mean, I think that's where I did it too. I mean, I think that's where a lot of us started, as far as that was kind of like low hanging fruit for young people to kind of be able to sling shoes on eBay and Craigslist. And that was even before like Facebook Marketplace and all that.
eBay was a big thing. I remember going to malls and waiting overnight for certain releases and stuff like that. And I think that and buying cars is very similar because of the rush. You know, you're waiting for this car and you're buying something and you're selling it for a potential profit, or you're trading, or you're meeting different collectors and stuff. So I think in all sense, it's very similar.
You started buying these cars in your early 20s. When do you think that you started, like, you know, kind of really making some moves, or gaining some traction rather?
I think the biggest thing, other than the success, is really all the failures. It's, you know, entrepreneurship is really a emotional roller coaster of ups and downs, and you reach highs and lows. And, you know, sometimes you get to the top of that mountain and the altitude's so high that you need to take a couple steps down, just to kind of breathe, you know? So
can you tell me how you did that? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think
because I think a lot of people, not to cut you off, but I think a lot of people kind of get in that like building, and then it's like, holy cow, I'm at the top of the mountain. Like, how do I get down from here? Where do I go? So tell me about, like, how did you identify, hey, I need to take a few steps back, or kind of make sure I'm evaluating things? And then, yeah, tell me a little bit about that stage.
Basically just from mistakes made. And I think, you know, every phase I've reached a certain level of success. And, you know, when you make it all the way to the top, the only way to go is down. I hate to say it that way, but
of course,
the only way to go is down. So I really just learned through mistakes and stuff. And some of my mistakes have cost me a lot of money. And when there's money involved, you know, you really reflect hard on that, and you just figure out, look, what do I need to do to learn from this mistake? And how can I correct this as quickly as possible? So I would say once I got into European cars, we started doing exotics. Then we opened up a store in Orlando. And then about like 2 years later, I ended up leaving to do my own thing. Prior to that, though, I kind of made a bad business decision and decided to get partners, and basically lost everything. And in that year, I kind of just took some time off and really figured out, like, where did I make the wrong moves, and kind of just took a break instead of jumping right back into it and running. And a year later, once I kind of took time off and figured out where things went wrong, I started my own thing here in Tampa like last year. So
okay, nice. And, you know, that's a great point as well that I want to identify with the audience is, you know, especially in that entrepreneurship journey, entrepreneurial journey rather. I think a lot of people, when they, like, you know, go through those failures, they don't evaluate those failures like you mentioned. They're just like, kind of like, okay, let me go to the next thing. Okay, let me go to the next thing. Okay, I'm going to try this. You know, they don't really go through that evaluation stage of like, okay, what worked and what didn't, you know, and then kind of even breaking that down even further, but like, how bad did that fail and why did it fail? You know what I mean? Because small failures can turn into, you know, big successes eventually. So that's very interesting that you took that time, because I think that's really rare for a lot of entrepreneurs, because they're just kind of like, okay, let's, you know, get up and go to the next thing. So I think we saw definitely in our generation one of the biggest car sparks in our history as far as COVID. So tell me about that kind of stage of, because you were kind of coming on the tail end of that, but tell me about the COVID craziness when it comes to cars, because some of these cars were getting, ridiculous, man.
Yeah, so COVID happened in 2020, maybe?
Yeah,
19?
2020, 21, yeah.
So during COVID, when we were finding out about what COVID even was, the prices started going down because everybody was in panic mode. And I kind of actually saw it as an opportunity, because everybody was flash selling everything. And I started noticing on auctions that nothing was selling, or everything was selling at such a low price. So I actually decided to start buying cars. And what I did was I kind of held on to them for a little bit. 3 months after the COVID thing even started, people were trapped in their homes, and people were online looking for cars, and they started buying cars. And I remember myself, I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to go for a drive. I need to go do something. And COVID for us was actually great. More people were online. Everybody started shopping online. People wanted something to do, drive their car. And it really it really changed the industry for that short amount of time. And then prices started to go up and up and up. And up until 22, that's when the market was literally at an all-time high. You could buy any car and make money on it.
I mean, G-Wagons were, what, $300,000? I mean, 100, 150 over stickers?
Highest they were over 310. So I ordered 8 of them, and we sold every single one to other dealers, not retail. We sold every single one for about 80,000 over.
It's insane.
Some we even sold to Mercedes dealerships.
That's insane. Yeah, because they just couldn't get them because they were just like, or their customers wanted them.
They were buying everything.
Yeah.
There was such a high demand for them. Those and Cullinans, actually.
And I think Colons have definitely dropped a little bit, but I think those are still kind of maintaining prices. You're the expert, you would know. But yeah, I mean, I think retailed on a Colon is probably high 4s, low 5s.
Yeah, so depending on the specs and stuff, somewhere in the 4s. Yeah. I think now you can buy like a 19. We call it a cheater. So basically a cheater is a little bit of miles, still clean, but price is right and all of that. You could probably buy one around like $250 right now.
Really? Okay, so they did take a significant drop. But they were at one point, trading in the 6s when the market was high?
Yeah, so we sold, I sold a black badge about 3 years ago. We ended up selling it for about like 5, I can't remember. It's like 5 something, but yeah, they were trading up there.
That's crazy. So how did you kind of adjust to, seeing how the market was changing? So obviously they saw the market was going down. So, what were your thought process then, or how did you kind of deal with that?
I was a little stubborn. I had people telling me like, hey, there's a market correction coming, something's happening. And I've never been through something like that. The last time we had, I don't want to say recession, but the last time we had something crazy like that happen was in 2008. So I was too young to understand that. And I basically bought a bunch of cars at the highest peak, which was around March of 2022. And then summertime of 22 is when they started tanking. So, I lost like 50 grand on a Cullinan. We were just losing money. The market was dropping. So if you bought at that peak, it was a scary situation.
Absolutely. But, you did your thing. And like you said, you reevaluated. And what types of cars, have you seen what people have wanted? Was COVID like a different time as far as what types of cars people wanted compared to today? Like, what are the popular vehicles?
It depends on the category. So you have your entry-level exotics. I would say the perfect entry-level cars would be like a Lamborghini Gallardo, a Ferrari California, Gen 1 Audi R8. Those are like the top 3 perfect entry-level cars. And then in the mid-range, you have your Huracans, your 458s, 488s. At that time, they were still a little bit up there. And then I would say in that third category, you have like your Aventadors, your 720Ss, and things of that nature.
What do you think is the most requested car that you get or you sell at this point?
Dude, honestly, it really all depends. I think the cool thing with me is I've literally, the first car I ever sold someone, let's just say a Gallardo, and then 5 years later, they're buying a 720 from me.
So they grow with you.
Yeah, they grow with me. So I always tell people it's easier to go up than to buy something crazy and then try something down. And the other thing is Gallardos, 430s, those cars, the market, if you look at the data for the past 5 years, even 6 years, they've almost been the same.
Yeah.
Gallardos have always been around that 90 to 100 range.
You've kind of seen that with like 430s, I think 360, Ferrari F430s.
Yep.
Ferrari 360s have kind of held their speed and stuff like that. Gallardos are great. So if you had to tell somebody called you and said, I want this car, what would you, and basically what would you say if it's not a good car? How do you kind of lead them away from that or something like that? Like it's,
I would just tell them. I mean, because here's the thing. So with us, our business is totally different than...
Because obviously there's unreliability in a lot of these exotic cars. I mean, obviously they all break to an extent, but there's some that are just like, man,
I think it's just, it has to fit with our picture. So our goal is we don't want to sell you one car. We want to sell you 10 cars. Right? Okay. I tell people that all the time. And in order for us to do that, we have to give our clients the best advice and tell them like, look, this is an investment. You want to spend a little bit of extra money on the front. So when you bring me back the car, you don't lose as much in the back. So if someone's sending me a car that I don't think makes sense or I think it's not the right time, I'll tell them. And if they still want it, that's totally fine.
Yeah,
but
that's
at
up
least
to them.
I told them. But for the most part, like, I want these cars to come back to me. So our goal is to find it at the best price, where if someone drives the car for a year and they only lose 5, 6, 7 grand, you did great. Your cost of usage was only $700-800.
Tell me about some of the attributes that you see in some of these customers, as far as, basically how they carry themselves, or how they talk. Are they direct? Do they know what they want? Tell me how that a customer experience goes.
Sure. Like, as far as how the customer is, or like when they come to us, or
So like the customer, like do you deal with, you think, a lot of business owners? Do you deal with like a lot of younger people, a lot of older people? Are you spending a lot of time with people explaining things, or like, are you dealing with a lot of customers that like, hey, listen, I came to get a 720S from you. Here's the price that I'm willing to pay. Is it a lot more cut and dry, or do you think there's a lot more dancing that goes on?
Depends on the buyer. So, you have your Porsche buyers and Ferrari buyers. They basically know what they want. They know the specs. They might even know more about the car than you do. So that is one audience. You have your entry-level people that are buying Gallardos, 430s, and I have to educate them on what a clutch snap reading is and all of these things. Then you have your buyer that buys cars every 5 months. We love those people because we're always swapping cars out with them. So I think it's a little bit of everything. So, with the entry level, there's more education, and with the Porsche, Ferrari crowd, it's more like, what's the window sticker, what's the specs, how's the service look, and all of that. So it really all depends on the car.
How do you deal with people that just don't understand about the exotic car buying process? Because I think a lot of people are just like, hey, let me, roll up with some money and stuff like that. But there's steps to be taken. It's like buying a house. It's not just like going up to, your normal family dealership and saying, hey, I want that one. It's a different experience.
It's like I tell people, you're buying a mortgage on wheels.
Yeah. Different vetting process and things like that.
I think it's just patience. I mean, there's education throughout the whole process other than buying the car. So once we get to the financing side, sometimes people are like, why do I have to put 100 grand down or 50 grand down? And it's like, well, you're buying a $300,000 car, $250,000 car, or why is my interest rate so high? Or, all of these questions. So I think from step A to Z, there's multiple little education processes, and you just have to have patience, And the other thing is we're 80% nationwide. So I have someone across the country calling me on a car where they're not seeing the car, want to make sure everything is how it is. They want to make sure you have keys, books. We do FaceTime calls. So that's the other thing. Someone's buying something across the country and trusting us to make sure it's what it is.
So is it just you selling the cars, or are there other people on your team that are selling as well?
So we have 5 people on our team right now. I try to be involved in all the sales, though. So my sales guy, Hunter, he basically contacts everyone, and I help him out any way I can, but I make it almost a mandatory thing for me to get on the phone with every client because it's all relationship-based. So my goal is to basically understand, why are you buying this car? What's making you buy this car? What do you plan on buying next? Just and take the time to get to know them, too. We're very relationship-based. I could have 5 salespeople slinging cars at my place, but that's not our motto. We're more tight-knit, relationship-based. I want to make sure I touch every customer and find some way or form to give them the best experience ever.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes a long way as well, because, in some instances, they may think they know what they want, but they don't know what they want. It's like, hey, listen, I want something that's, reliable and it's going to last, and I drive 10,000 miles a year. And it, when you learn about them and do the vetting process, and they're like, and I really love the Aventador because the doors go up.
Yep.
And you're like, Aventador single clutch, you may have some issues down the road. If you're going to drive 10,000 miles a year, you may want to look at the Evo, or you may want to look at the 720 if you like the doors going up, or et cetera. So I'm sure that's very important. And I do the same thing in my business as well. I talk to every client. I'm the first, 15 to however long it takes, phone call, introduction, getting the basic, case facts, making them feel comfortable. And that goes a long way. I mean, people appreciate that.
They respect it because a lot of the people we're talking to, they're business owners. I was in Europe last week, and my guys were working on a deal, and I'm like, send me his number. So I called him, and he was literally so happy. He's like, I can't believe you're calling me on your vacation. You're the owner of the company. I'm like, yeah, man. Like, what do you need from me? Like, what questions do you have? And we went from potentially almost losing a deal to actually getting that deal done just because I took the time to understand, why are you buying this car? What do you plan on doing with it? What do you need from me to educate you on? And basically he just got his first big check, and the Gallardo was a poster car of his. So I told him it's a perfect entry-level car, explained the clutch snap reading, I explained all these things that, you know, other places didn't explain to him. And after the phone call, I got to know him, and it just felt really good. You know, he's on board. We got the deal done, and it's cool to do things like that and just educate people and make sure they're making the right investment.
Well, you think about how rad that is too. Like, the guy got his first check. It's probably, other than his house, probably the biggest purchase that he's ever made in his life. And he's calling you, and it does go a long way because the world has just gotten so transactional now. It's
Dude,
crazy.
I posted something the other day. I'm like, everyone in this business right now wants to be so transactional and hit a home run on every deal, whether you're whatever.
Volume home runs.
And it's honestly, this world has just come to shit in the business world. And for me, the currency is relationships. I don't want to hit a home run on every deal. I want you to come back to me. I want you to call me and hang out with me. And like, I want to be your friend. Seriously. Like, I think it's so important to curate relationships because you never know who that person knows, and you never know when they're going to come back. And with the exotics, people are always trying new things out. You know, you buy yours, then you want a Huracan, then you want an Aventador, then you want a 720. And once you give that customer the best experience they ever had.
Or you want all of them.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Or that, you know. But once you give them that best experience of their life, they're never going to go anywhere else.
I think what a lot of people are missing was selling today. And that's what you're doing. I mean, you're selling, it's customer service, so it's relationships, but, you know, it's relationship building. That's it. It's like, I'm looking at 3 cars down the road, 5 cars down the road, et cetera. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're buying a $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 car, you're probably pretty successful. This probably isn't going to be the only time that you're going to do this in your life. Yep. And you want to keep recapturing that business. And I'm sure, you know, especially with what you do, lead generation is so much harder. It's expensive. It takes time. There's a lot of competition out there. So when you have somebody, you know, basically for free that's spreading the good word, then at that point, it's like, what, you know, it becomes that much easier. Your cost of acquisition goes down. And again, I think so many people, and I want to press on that, it's all about relationship building when you know, and coming across as genuine, you know, and like you said, you know, asking some questions. Why are you buying the car? Tell me your story. How did you get here? Yeah. You know, that's huge. And people love that. You know, it goes back to, you know, how to make friends and influence people. What's the sweetest thing that anybody's ever heard? It's their own name. And, you know, just telling their story and stuff like that. People love talking about themselves. And that's great. And you own that. They're paying you a lot of money.
Well, I think now too, you know, in the decade I've been doing this, there's no better feeling than getting calls literally every day. Hey, dude, I bought this Huracan last year, ready to get this Aventador. Hey, I bought this Phantom, I'm ready to get the Cullinan. And I have 2 phones, and my phone's constantly ringing. And I think it's so cool to have.
I know that life.
Yeah. I think it's so cool to just have friends and clients all over the country to, like, even when I travel somewhere, you know, whether it's a dealership or one of my clients are there, like we hang out. Like I was in Vegas last month. We had a good client of ours. He's a professional poker player. So he was in a tournament with Neymar, Dan Bazarian, Jimmy Butler. And it was just cool, dude. Like I was in Vegas as the car was getting delivered to him. So it was just weird. And then, you know, we hung out and stuff, and it was just cool to meet people, and you never know what people do, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it only helps you and makes you better. And that's awesome, man. I love that. So what are your thoughts? We got to get into a little bit of controversy. What are your thoughts on hybrid and electric vehicles?
I'll be totally honest with you. I don't even pay attention to any of that. I think right now the EV market's going to crap, so to say. I will say, though, that the Tesla market is the most consistent and steady market. I think with all these other companies, there's a lot of trial and error right now, and they're just not figuring it out. I think the other thing, too, is, you know, the point of doing EVs is, you know, for the planet and all this stuff. But what are you going to do when you have all these batteries and all this?
It's the $1 billion question right now.
I was listening to a video the other day. I forgot where it was at. I think it was this guy named Car Dealership Guy. He has really good content, and they were saying like to charge an electric car, someone is dumping a bunch of coal somewhere to generate like, I guess, the power or whatever it is. So it doesn't make sense to me. I have no idea. If you do want an EV though, I recommend anything Tesla.
I don't think anybody other than Tesla's really gotten it right.
Yep.
And then I think Tesla only batteries, and don't quote me, so don't fact check me, 5 to 7 years maybe on a battery or something like that.
I have no idea.
They're definitely not forever. So, those cars only have so much of a shelf life. But I think also too, and credit to Elon Musk, obviously, is the brand is just so massive that I think that goes into a lot of it as well.
You have to think, I mean, they've been producing cars now for over a decade as well. So it's like anything you start, the first couple years, it's really trial and error. It's like any car too, the first year or two of that car, there's going to be issues. There's going to be things to figure out. So when you make that next production, you can figure out those kinks and have a better product. So I think Tesla, out of all the companies right now, is on the best path to accomplish what they're trying to do.
And I want to circle back real quick. Tell me some advice that you have for selling. What if you hired a new salesperson that, had a little bit of experience, because obviously you don't want somebody too fresh, how would you train them? What would you tell them?
So this is going to sound really crazy, but I try to hire people that don't come from other car dealerships.
Okay.
Because it's almost like I have to untrain them to our training. With us, it's not really selling the car, right? It's just knowing about the product, educating the customer, answering the questions before they answer them, and literally just giving them the best experience possible. How can I serve you at the highest level? And that's really it. It's more of a hospitality thing because, the guy buying the Ferrari, the guy buying the Urus probably already wants a car. There's not much selling to do. I think it's really painting the picture as far as what we do and just serving that person at the highest level and just having gratitude for that person even coming to your place or calling you to potentially purchase that car. So it's more of a relationship thing. And I think that's what I try to show my guys is building relationships with people. And because of that, we've had so much success and so much business out of it. And most importantly, like, dude, I've met some cool friends. Like, there's no better feeling than like a client calling me and is like, hey, dude, like, come on my boat, or hey, let's go grab lunch and stuff. Like, someone buying like let's just say a Nissan or something, chances are like you're just going to see them that one time and that's it. And it's more of a transactional thing. I think with our business, like with exotics and stuff, number one, you meet business owners, you meet cool people, you meet interesting people, and you're able to curate those relationships and build something more long-term. So I just tell my guys, just give them the best experience ever and just serve them at the highest level.
I'll say, man, like, and it's very interesting that you bring that up. So, and I don't want to seem like a bad husband. Okay, my wife wanted this, but she wanted a Toyota 4Runner. And I'm like, my mom had one, and I'm like, okay, no complaints here. So we went to the Toyota dealership, and I'm not going to say each one. We were there for 4 hours. 4 hours. Yep. Like, and they're like, and I traded in my old car. I had a Mercedes, that I had driven to death and stuff. And and then they got to, evaluate the car. We didn't even test drive it. I'm like, we just want that one. Like,
yeah.
4 hours, man, of just like, okay, let's look at your car. And then, that was 45 minutes. And then, oh, we got to run the comps. And then, and I know part of the reason is they probably do that on purpose. But it was like such a drawn out process of, and I think they, they gave us a warranty, knocked a couple bucks off. Like it wasn't a strenuous negotiation or anything like that. And I'm like, everybody just has such a like miserable experience 9 times out of 10 going to the car dealership with these volume dealers. And I know they try to avoid that and everybody's different and stuff, but I was like, man, 4 hours, like that's crazy. We talked 3 times,
I think that's my biggest thing. And to add on what you said earlier, as far as training, someone I hire, simplify the process, be a problem solver. What are the hurdles? What are the person's issues? How can we make
Well, you're not selling a widget. And that's how I think they view it as well. It's like, I'm just selling this widget. You're like, Your guys, it seems like it's like, I'm selling this Corsa Red 458 Spider with 7,000 miles. And I think that's where a lot of the simplicity comes from, is the knowledge.
Yeah, no, 100%. The knowledge, us talking to some of the people where they already know what they want, and just, again, simplifying the process. Like, what do we have to do to get the deal done? What do you need out of me? What do I got to do? On the financing side, how can I get you approved fast? Like, I just try to literally make things as easy and painless as possible. And it's like I tell people, after our first deal, I promise you it only gets easier down the road. And it does.
And again, circling back to what you said and talking about those two different experiences, they're trying to sell the widget and they're trying to sell it one time.
Yep.
And if you end up coming back, cool, we won. But really, you're trying to sell your, this car and this car and this car multiple times to create a relationship.
For us, it's just painting the picture. It's really selling ourselves and sharing, like, my passion. Like, every car I buy in inventory, I only buy cars that I have a passion for and that I like. I won't take anything on trade-in that doesn't make sense with what we do. And anytime someone asks me about a car, I can genuinely get excited about the car and tell them what I like about it, what I don't like about it. And it's more of a genuine experience. And look, there's nothing wrong with the dealership. Some people need a 4Runner. Some people need a Nissan. Some people need an EV car. That's totally fine, right? People go, they get what they want, and that's it.
By the way, I love that 4Runner. I love that thing.
Dude, my girlfriend's dad has a 4Runner. I shit you not. It's 20 years old, has like 200,000 miles.
Bulletproof.
No check engine light. Nope. He's taking care of it. He's never selling it. And he bought the brand new TR, I think.
Yeah.
Dude, it's badass, but 4Runners will not go anywhere.
Well, my wife will be keeping that for two. No, I'm just kidding. Don't listen to the internet, sweetheart. But tell me about it. I want to go. We talked about the flex culture, and we talked about kind of people showing their wares a little bit. Tell me about how social media has affected the car market, or just the exotic cars in general.
Sure.
Do you think it's a positive thing, a negative thing? Do you think it's both? What are your thoughts?
I think it's both. I think now with social media and the culture and the world that we're in, I think everybody is a car expert and everyone always has an opinion and stuff, which is fine, right? And I think it's great for someone like myself that has a dealership. Social media is like your resume, right? So it's funny because I took a break off of social media for like 3 years. It's the best thing I ever did. But what sucked is sometimes I'd go and travel and meet places.
Your mental health was probably off the charts.
It was, right? Yeah. So I took like a year off. I traveled and all this stuff. My only complaint was, though, is anytime I'd meet someone like influential or cool, I was like, fuck. Like their Instagram, I was like, I don't have it.
It's huge for networking. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
And other than that, though, yeah, it was the greatest thing I ever did. I kind of dialed back from that. Now, obviously, we're back on since, started a new company here, and that was a big part in meeting people. So when I moved back down here, I just started looking for successful people and just started following. And this person follows that person. And, at some point, people started to find out kind of who we were because we're fairly new company here. So we're 15 months old. And when I opened up here, we probably had like Range Rovers and Mercedes and stuff like that. And now we have, crazier inventory. So I think in that sense, it's good. I think for the person that does want to flex, that's cool. That's on them. And I think, you have some true car guys. Like we sold a GT2 RS and, we didn't even take a picture. He didn't care. Like, he's just like, I just want the car.
Just hyped on the car, and I don't blame him. Those are beautiful cars.
So I think it just depends, man, on the age group. I think it depends on the person. I think there's a little bit of everything, and you just kind of got to weed through the bullshit and figure out, like, what you want to do. For me, like, it does help. And, I do post a lot of my company stuff on social media. So it's, again, it's like you just got to have a balance.
So have you ever, tell me, and you don't have to mention any names, any celebrities or athletes or anything like that. How is that experience different from maybe selling to like a business owner or some type of professional?
So we've had a couple athletes, a couple celebrities. We recently sold a car to a professional poker player, which he was cool. To me, there's no difference. At the end of the day, whether that person's a celebrity or a lawyer or a dentist, I treat everyone like they're a celebrity, and that's a big rule of mine at the dealership. So if we have someone coming in, we put a bow tie on the car, have my media guy come out, start recording. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, because I feel like in a lot of other atmospheres, when you hear a celebrity or an athlete, people get excited and they go above and beyond. But the dentist coming in or the guy that does construction coming in, it might not be as exciting, but it is exciting. That person worked their ass off and they probably had that car on their poster, and we have to celebrate that. Like this is a big deal. So I don't care if you're a celebrity, a dentist, you own a McDonald's, like we want to be a part of every journey and we want to celebrate with you.
I still look at, so it was a dream of mine to buy I wanted a Ferrari 458. So that was my dream car. That was, I always talked to that about that growing up, and they were getting a little bit older and I almost had a deal on one, which I still regret not buying, but I ended up with.
How long ago was it?
I could have got a 14 458 with a lift. Spider for 205. And carboned out, and I wanted to pay, I think, like 201. I was just being a cheapskate. So, but I ended up with the Lamborghini Huracan, the Green Machine, which is well known around Tampa. And I appreciate all the support out there. I've met a lot of incredible people, very similarly to you, that I probably wouldn't have met if I wasn't in the car club.
Of course.
But I'll tell you, man, I still go. My dad came over that day. We had always talked about me doing it and stuff, and he came over and we took photos and stuff like that. It's one of the coolest days of my life. I have photos of me like signing the paperwork when they sent the paperwork over, and it is such an experience. It is such an amazing time, and that's awesome that you highlight that. So because I think a lot of people do get sucked in the moment. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. So that's really cool that you do that, film it and stuff, because like I said, I still go back, and it was one of the coolest days of my life. So.
Yeah, dude, when you come to us, everyone's a celebrity, and I mean, literally yesterday, dude, I got kind of teary-eyed. I had a client, he bought our Shelby Cobra.
Yeah.
And I wasn't there. I was gone in Europe, but my guys were like, dude, I wish you would have been here. So I watched the video once I got back, and he left us the review. And like, I remember just like getting really teary-eyed, because he said, you know, this is my dream car since I was 7 years old. I'm 40 now. And, you know, thank you guys so much. You guys did everything. You guys put the bow on, like, it was just like perfect. And like, it really made me realize, like, this is the reason I wake up every day, and I'm so fucking excited to go to work and, like, meet these people, be a part of their journey, and just be of service to them, man. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, I genuinely love helping people, you know. I have to make money in my business, but honestly, dude, like, I don't care about that, because when you do the right thing and when you're genuine and you make things right, like, the money's going to come with that. So it's so rewarding, dude.
Yeah, and you know, I know we touched on it, and I want to, you know, kind of get your thoughts on this. You know, you hear a lot. Everybody knows who Gary Vee is, and I'm a big proponent of this. Is, you know, and it's about waste. And one of the quotes is, "Don't buy shit to impress people that you don't care about." And I think exotic cars kind of get a bad rap. And you know, I always say, if you can afford it, number one, definitely go do it. You know, if it doesn't put you in peril. But number two, like, life's short, man. Like, that guy was like 40 years old. Like, imagine if he waited till he was 60.
Yep.
Like, if you got the ability to do it, like, I'm all about going to do it. Like, live that dream. Go do, you know, have those experiences, make those things happen, and make those dreams come true. And, you know, I think with the business that you have is one of those, like, delayed gratification businesses. And to the viewers out there, you know, I don't know how you feel about this statement, but I'm saying don't wait too long. No. You know, go enjoy it.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, the people that do say, like, it's a dumb thing, like, they have very little information, you know, like, yes, there's markets, right, where you're going to lose a bunch of money, and that's really on the newer cars. If you want to be smart, there's ways to hack these cars where you don't lose anything, or if you lose like 10 grand in a year, you did great. Your cost was like $800 a month. And what if you meet someone out there that influences your business, or, you know, like, people don't see it that way. And I think at the end of the day, dude, look, real recognize real, right? Like, if I see your car, like, you're not flexing, you love, you're passionate. Like, we're talking about cars now, and same thing with me, right? Like, I think there's a community for that, right? The business owners and the people that are cool, and like, they're just, it's a cultural thing, and you have that other crowd that it's more of a flex, and look, that's totally fine. So I think it's just about finding your niche and finding where you fit in.
And I love the content, and I'm not hating on Daniel Mack. I don't, to stay out of my comments. I don't need to beg Daniel Mack to get his fan club off of me, because I do love his videos. But I love when he goes more in depth with people because he's got to keep it short. But it's like,
Yeah.
what do you do for a living? It's like, okay, that's cool. Like, it's like, okay, what do you do for a living? But I want more, you know what I mean? But it's, and obviously the interview has to be longer and it's just kind of clippy and stuff like that. But it's like, oh, I'm a doctor. Tell me about being a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, I would love like more. And that's why podcasts are great, obviously, because of the trials and tribulations and stuff like that. But it's like, how did you do that? Or how did you make that happen? And I love when they go into deeper dialogue, like we're kind of going into, obviously it can't always be this long, but what are the attributes of successful people, or how do you sell, or those are the important questions. And what I'm trying to get at is that's the advice. If you see somebody that's owning a nice car that you're interested in, try to dig a little deeper if you can. And most car people that I know are awesome, and they'll take the time to answer your questions. So I would advise the audience to use that time. If you do see somebody that's kind of influential or driving an awesome car, to not just be like, hey, what do you do for a living? Yeah. Okay. Like, ask them how they got there. That's probably going to be more helpful. That's just my 2 cents.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I think with anything, exotic car owners, like it's a trophy, and it kind of symbolizes more of all the fiascos and failures. And, we go through things. Like, again, it's an emotional roller coaster of ups and downs. And I think, there's some people that just see exotic car owners and they're like, oh, this guy's a douchebag, or, daddy's money, or
daddy's money. I love that.
Whatever it is, right? But like, for me, when I see someone in an exotic car,
my dad shops at Walmart. He will never buy an exotic car. And when I bought my car, my mom said to me, we don't spend money like that.
I love Walmart. Dude.
Yeah, I mess with Walmart pretty hard. So
just don't go to the one on Del Mabry. That one
I'm more of a Target
crazy
guy. I'm a little bougie.
Target.
More at Target. Hey, dude, I'm married. Pretty little blonde girl. So I took on the Target life.
There you go.
So, but yeah, man, I agree. And I hope, I think it is changing though. I think in the last 5-10 years, I think the exotic car owner reputation has definitely changed quite a bit. From that like douchebag mentality of like, oh yeah, all these things, to be like, oh, like, okay, what did that guy actually do? Did he do something?
Yeah, no, I think there's just different markets. Like, you have the vintage and classic market, and I'm actually really excited for that market because now the Gallardos 430s, some Porsche GT3s, all of that, like those are becoming investments. And if you really look at the data and bring a trailer and some of these sites, some of these cars do better than the stock market does.
Yeah, 100%.
I had a good friend of mine. He just sold Michael Jordan. He bought Michael Jordan's GT2 RS and sold it literally within like 3 days. Yeah. My buddy George, good friend of mine, and it's just sick, dude. Like, that's how I look at some of these cars as investments. I've bought in cars, I've held them, and some people like art. I like looking at a car, and I get to drive my art. I mean, like, it's cool.
What do you think about the exotic rental car business? I know that's kind of an open-ended question. Personally, and I'll start you off there, I think there's a ton of risk. The guys that do it really well, but I feel like these little companies, and never going to shut down somebody's entrepreneurial spirit, but it's a big risk, man, to just kind of like...
tell people run away.
It's scary. Okay. Tell me more.
You hit it on the head. The first thing is liability. The first thing, a lot of these exotic car rental companies, they don't have proper insurance. They're finagling, cutting corners. They're not doing things the right way. The second thing we talked about is liability. I don't want to get a call at 3:30 a.m. that someone crashed their car. Third thing is at some point you have to think, right? If a car gets in an accident, even if Toro or whoever pays for it or insurance, right? That car has an accident. At some point, you're gonna have to get new inventory and sell that inventory. On an exotic car with an accident, you could potentially take a $20,000, $30,000 hit.
At least,
right?
Yeah.
On a bad Carfax, or if airbags deploy, or if had structural damage, right? So if that car made you 30 grand in 4 months, let's just call it, but now you got 30,000 hit on Carfax.
What'd you gain?
Nothing. Just headaches.
That's what I tell people, and that, like, I get it. And the reason why I ask you too is I get hit up, and I would never ever do it. So put this on record for my insurance company, auto owners. I would never rent my car.
So if you need a rental, hit up Kevin.
Oh yeah,
just kidding,
killing me. They're like, hey man, you want to rent your car? I'm like, absolutely not. They're like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, there's no, and everything that I know between the insurance industry and the liability and collectability and et cetera. I mean, it is a bad thing, and people don't understand. And I'll put it out there as a PSA. those people that are like, oh, I'm just going to rent my car and stuff like that, you know, or I'm just going to rent my car to this company, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Most of the time, and, you know, I would say pretty much 99% of the time, your insurance policy is going to void you.
They won't cover it.
Yeah, nope. They'll
also,
say, sorry, have a nice day.
If you're financing the car, which most people are financing exotics, they will not finance the car if they know you are renting it out.
Really? That's pretty interesting. Because so you'd be in violation of your contract as well,
the bank's taking all the risk
here.
Yeah,
of course. That makes a lot of sense.
So if the car's getting rented out and it's getting driven, that's a huge risk on the bank that's holding the paper.
Massive. Yeah, so, man. I'm glad you were on the same page with this, man, because it's so scary to hear about it.
The only person I know that's doing it, that's having success, is my buddy Houston with Royalty Exotics.
Oh, yeah. I met him at, was he, Houston Corsa, right?
Yep.
Love that guy. Yep. I rented my first exotic car from, I rented, so I went to Vegas with my wife.
I have a 430 there right now. We're doing a manual conversion, so very excited to get it back. So Houston, please get my car back.
Has he finished the Bugatti yet? I know he was trying to, I was watching the series and I lost track.
So I was there, I was in Vegas last month.
I hope I don't mean to cut you off, but I hope he's as cool and like as a normal person as he is on YouTube, because he seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah, dude. No, Houston's a super cool dude. I've been doing business with him, believe it or not, for 7 years. I bought a couple cars from him a couple years ago, and him and his business partner, Kirk, have just always been real cool, genuine people.
That's awesome.
And dude, we're just car guys, man. And like, again, like I treat Houston like a normal person. He treats me like a normal person. We're car guys. So I was there last month, and the Scuba Gotti was all taken apart. So he's thinking about changing some interior stuff and colors, and it's just the way his mind works, right? So
he's the #1 Bugatti parts owner, I think, in the country, right? Is that correct?
He probably has a bunch of parts.
I think he's the most. He has the largest inventory of maybe used Bugatti parts or something. I think I saw that at one point, but yeah, I mean,
probably, dude. I mean, he has parts for days. He'll literally
brave undertaking.
He bought a transmission for some other car just to hold on to it in case he ever needs it. So
I don't blame him. Yeah, I rented an Aventador from him. It was an awesome experience. Rolled up, got it, and I had the time of my life. So we were on our honeymoon. We went to Vegas. And I said to my wife, I was like, we can go to any shows you want. We can go to any dinners you want. I want to get a car for 24 hours. And I got an Aventador. And Las Vegas is 3 hours back from Tampa, obviously. So I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm used to getting up at 6 o'clock or earlier. And I shook my wife and I said, hey, you want to go drive the car or whatever? And she goes, no, I'm going back to sleep. I go, I'm taking the car. And I drove around for like an hour and a half in the desert. So yeah, shout out to those guys, man. They do a great job. But I will say the rental car business is very scary. So
yeah, he only does it just because I'd assume just YouTube and views and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because
he's the guy.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, man. I wouldn't be able to do with it. And even with my business, like we could have a 100-car dealership if we really wanted to and have all these cars in inventory. But I've been doing this for so long, and I just want my peace.
Yeah.
And I think now we have so many clients and friends of ours that come back to us that like we don't need to have that much inventory, because all that does is create more chaos, more paperwork, more fires to put out, and I just want my peace, dude.
Well, that goes back to your kind of Everest, mountain analogy, as well as a lot of people are like, oh, I want a $50 million exit or $100 million exit, or I want to be a billionaire and stuff like that. It's okay to have just a cool business, live a great life and be sustainable, and that's okay. And I almost want to normalize, an elevated level of normalcy. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast as well, and to talk to, business owners and great people in Tampa Bay. And it's like, yeah, these are amazing people, but at the end of the day, they're just like us. They just want peace in their lives as well. And I think, we have a lot more commonalities than we think. I think one of the biggest things, that differentiates us from a lot of other people is probably, one, figuring out the formula, figuring out what works. And then number 2 is work ethic. I'm sure you work your tail off, 2 phones, always ringing, taking calls late at night. I mean, that's my story as well. And I love it. And I know what I signed up for. And it's brought a lot of blessings to my life. So.
You got a 3? Because I got a 3 for you, number 3.
What do you got?
Solution oriented.
Oh, yeah.
Figure it the fuck out. Like, there's a solution for everything. I always tell people, I'm like, I don't care about the problem. I want the solution. What do we need to do to figure this out? And I think in business, that's such an important trait to have because, for example, in my business, like there are things we can control, and then there are outside things where whether I'm working with a service shop, a shipping company, or whatever it is, right? And we're, some people are just used to waiting on them. I'm like, no, what's the solution? What do we need to do to make this happen faster? Or what is the best solution to do? Like, I don't care about the problem. What's the solution? Because
and that's huge. I mean, that's massive. And there's plenty of times when people will call me and I'll say, listen, I bet you're asking for an update on your case, which is 90% of the time that they're calling. Why don't you give me a
update on your car?
Yeah, update on your car.
Yeah.
Give me a half hour. Let me go ahead and review your file, and then let's have a real conversation. Because I think so many people get on the phone and they're like, I'll call you back. And it's like, do you even know what the hell is going on? Like, do you even have any idea? So that is huge. I mean, being solution oriented is massive, and getting in front of the problem and anticipating people's needs. It's like, if, for example, in your business, if, hey, listen, I know you haven't received your car yet because you've been calling me every day. Before we have this or continue this conversation, I'm going to call the driver right now for you, and I'm going to see where he's at, and I'm going to see if I can push him along. I'm just, inserting words, but that's all they want.
Dude, that's it. And this is, something I teach my guys. It's like, you got to answer the phone, the good, the bad, the ugly.
100%.
And before you get on your phone, have all your facts in front of you. Whether we're appraising a car, whether we're updating a customer, like give them the facts. And before you just call and sound like you don't know what you're doing, like take a breather. Let's go over it. Let's game plan. Let's attack. And we use that strategy literally in everything on the buy, sell side. If there's an issue, like I'm a big, I like to take my time.
A lot of people are afraid of doing that. A lot of people are afraid of taking the step back when they're having these conversations because they don't want to seem like they don't have the knowledge or they're wrong or anything. And I think going through the experiences that you have and I have, I'm not afraid of taking, being patient because ultimately I want to give them the right answer.
Yep.
Because if I rush through and I'm wrong anyway, then it's going to be multiple times worse than if I just, okay, hey, let's take a step back. Let me read this note real quick, or let me see what this doctor said here, or let me see what this bill is, or let me make sure I have this, or let me read the crash report. Give me 2 seconds. That's huge. Let me give you the right answer rather than being like, just stuttering. Like
right answer and as detailed as possible.
Of course.
Where not only you answer the question, we went above and beyond, and just when they hang up, they're not even upset. You know?
Absolutely. And another step, I often do too, get in front of the problem. It's like, that person is expecting their car on Thursday. Call them on Tuesday.
Yep.
And say, hey man, I just want to let you know, your car's shipping from Tampa to Texas. It's in, Louisiana right now. It looks like it's on track. Appreciate you. That's another touch. It's another positive input, et cetera.
That's the most important thing. It's cool when everything's going right. The most important thing, and this is for me as a business owner, I look at it this way, and a lot of my clients do as well. It's what do you do when things go bad?
Yeah.
How do you handle that situation? And I think when you're able to overcome that, right, just like success and failures, customers really appreciate you more because you solve the problem. And if you can solve it as painless and effortlessly as possible, I think you get some kudos for that, and you get some brownie points from the customer.
And sometimes you just got to listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not even frustrated with you, and they just need a voice. And sometimes they trust you that much. And that took me a long time to realize. It's like, they're like, they're frustrated on the phone and stuff like that. And it's like, let me take a step back again. And it's like, they're not frustrated with me. They're frustrated because they just got bad news here, got bad news there, or they're in pain or whatever. So there's a lot of, like you said, solution orientation. And then to even build that even a little bit more is just genuine human nature and just being kind, just listening. So important. And the last thing that I want to end with is, what would you tell somebody that's trying to buy their first exotic car? What advice would you give them? Go to Tampa Auto Gallery and reach out to Victor.
That's step one. But no, I think whether it's, us or other dealerships, I think the first thing, it's going to the right person.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I think just like in your business and my business, there's good attorneys and there's bad attorneys. There's good car dealers, there's bad car dealers. And fortunately in my business, car dealers have a bad rap. So I think the important thing is finding the right person that is the currency's relationship and not money. That's number one. Number two is just kind of doing your research, but without going overboard, because you have some people where they get in the ear of their friends and now they're getting opinions from people that don't even know anything about these cars, and it just gets a little excessive.
No, bro, get that MP12C.
Yeah.
Get that MP12C. It's
Don't buy an MP412C.
Or I can, yeah.
Dude, it's funny you say that. I had a guy yesterday.
50 grand, man.
I'm like, look, you can buy them for 80, you're going to have $30,000.
You want to push it. Yeah.
So find the right person, do your research, and don't look for the cheapest solution. There's plenty of dealerships out there
man, I agree with that so much.
That sell cars for the low or cheap or however you want to say it. And you need to be smart. This is an investment. You're not just buying a car. Like you need to think long term. And this is something I tell people all the time. Look, you're going to spend more with me in the front, but in the back, you're going to protect your investment better. You want to buy something with the right mileage, with the right service records. If you're buying a 488 and there's a 10 grand difference, but one has $40,000 extra in options, that's the car you want to buy, because when you resell it, it's going to be easier to sell.
That 10 grand is probably going to transfer.
Yeah.
You're probably not really going to lose that much.
And I think it's just finding the right person to educate you, and that's not there to just hit a home run on you. And that's really hard to do. And sometimes you're going to have to make, just like in life, you're probably going to make a mistake. I've had people that have gone and bought it in other cars and had not the best experiences, and then they come to us, and not that I like that, but I do like it in the sense because they've seen that side. And then once they kind of see how our process is and how we treat them, they're just so thankful and fortunate. So sometimes you got to bump your head.
Absolutely. And one thing I would add to that too, that I actually did myself, is go to car shows, meet car people. Like go and see how they like it. Maybe go on a couple car forums and but definitely, see it in person. Maybe stop by a couple dealerships. You're probably not going to be test driving one, but at least go look and check it out. And I think research is huge. So can't thank you enough, man.
No,
for coming on to the show.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Victor Falcon, Tampa Auto Gallery. We're going to have all of his contact info in the bio below, in the description. And as always, it's no accident that Victor has had the success that he has. So thanks you so much, man.
Thank you so much, man.
We'll see you soon.
See you, buddy.